Welcome back, Dresden fans, and today we are going to be talking about stuff. So today I wanted to announce, basically I'm going to do a Dresden read-through. This should not take me too long. I do have about 2 months until the final book or the next book, Peace Talks, is released. Therefore, I am going to be able to take this time to read all those books. So I will be binging this entire series soon. Hopefully I can finish it by then. If I can't, I'll definitely finish it by Battleground, which is another month or two after that. So I will definitely be doing all of that very soon. And because of the timing constraints, I don't have 15 weeks to read each of the books, or to post a video of each of these books, so I will be posting extra reviews if I do get them done on time. So we'll see about that, but I do think that this is going to be happening. Anyway, Dresden Files. So this is a actually legitimately solid book. When I came into this series, I really thought that this book would be just normal, really. I didn't expect it to be very good at all. But by the end of this one book, I really felt myself growing attached to the character. This book does so little that's just crazy. The only thing that I can say that's so interesting about this book that really intrigued me was the amount of loose ends, because it wasn't really like let go without any thought. The loose ends within this book are really interesting and indicative of what is to come in the future. When you think of the loose ends in Dresden Files, there's a lot of things that are just not explored. His father, his mentor, his girlfriend or wife, the White Council, the Never. So many things that are just dropped in that are just really interesting and stick into my mind. These are the things that stuck into my mind. Imagine the amount of stuff that just didn't stick. You can just see the amount of content in this book that really doesn't really get explored. Since there's so much interesting content that also doesn't get explored, I really see value in continuing my read because it's just so interesting to go into this book and to try to learn about the Never, to learn about his mentor, stuff like that, which already I'm reading in the full moon. Stuff is actually there already, and I'm seeing it unfold before my very eyes, and it's not crazy, it's not huge, but it's there, and it's just so interesting to see that because I don't expect fantasy series to do this often. If I see a pulp fantasy series, I don't expect such a grand narrative to kind of come peeking through right from the first book, or at all for that matter. This is such an interesting big narrative, but it's all just left out right in the first story. Just so many things are just there, and it's just so filling for me as a reader to see all of those things and then start reading the next book and see some of those things get explored further. It's like a very natural progression that a lot of these new fantasy books really lack. Stuff like the Stormlight Archive or Kingkiller. These things are very short series so far anyway, and the stuff that is explored so far really feels like if it needed to be explored, it was explored. If it didn't need to be explored, it wasn't even mentioned. That kind of stuff is very prevalent through fantasy in my opinion. And when you see a series like this, where it's not only like kind of leaving stuff for later, where it touches on something and like it doesn't matter that you don't understand it because it's there, and it delves into that topic in a future novel, that's just so great to read because it's so natural, it's so realistic, even though it's not creating great mystery right from the start. It's still very interesting. The stories itself are enough to keep you reading the story itself. But this interesting mystery that's going on in the background, this larger picture, is just slowly, very naturally, way more naturally than I can say for any other series I've read, is just slowly coming to fruition. And I'm just loving that. That's just so fantastic to see. It's just such a breath of fresh air. I also quite enjoyed the main protagonist, Harry Dresden. He came off right at the start as a kind of no character kind of guy. But as you go along, there are small quirks that you can pick up. And I'm not in love with this guy, but I do find that his character's pretty interesting. It's a solid character that I wouldn't call a bad character. It's enough that I can see, I can see the threads that they might explore in the future. There's so many things that could come up in the future. There's so many ways that he could change, and his character is well enough defined that I feel like this is a good starting place. I cannot think of a better starting place. This isn't Stormlight Archive, where they're also exploring a backstory. There's a backstory going on, but the main story is about the future. The main story is a progression through time of this one guy, and I'm really glad that this is being focused on because it adds so much. This is just such a series that just really feels natural to me. It's one of those really natural, like, old-timey stories that just feels like a classic. Even though it's not great, but it feels like a classic. It has that air of the slow, grand build-up that just will one day come up and erupt and just feels so awesome. Other than Harry, though, there are a bunch of other characters within the story that I feel are kind of off. Stuff like Karen and Susan. I can only remember their names because they appeared again in the full moon, and that's what I'm reading right now. But in these books, in the first book itself, I got really annoyed at how many female characters there were because they were all described in the same way. Just as you know, Dresden is very beat on by the male gaze. People think that it has the male gaze a lot, and people really don't like that about it. I can live with that kind of thing. If it's used properly, I can do that. I do feel that it's getting repetitive now, because now all of the female characters are being described in the same way. I'm just not a fan of that. I feel like there's not enough to differentiate them. Like in character, I get it, but if they just appear on scene, for example, if they were crossing the street and Dresden thought, oh, hey, there's Karen Murphy, it wouldn't be enough for me to realize who's that, because they don't really diverge in looks. They don't really diverge in Dresden's perception. They're all perceived in the same way, and that just really annoys me, because I feel like there's so much more that could have been done with these characters. I feel like maybe 70% of the characters that are named are actually female, which is kind of annoying. I want to have diversification in terms of who I see, right? Because all the characters are described in the same way, specifically females. If there were males, it would spice it up because of just how Dresden describes characters. So if there were more male characters, I feel like it would have been better because of the way it was described, because it would have been easier for me to like realize, oh, that's this person and this is this person, instead of which girl is that? I don't know, because they're all described in very, very similar ways. Due to that, I had a lot of problems during the story where I just couldn't figure out who this person was. And usually I can figure it out through context clues. And I will eventually. I'll figure it out through context clues, like maybe one of the women gets murdered, right? And I try to figure out who's this person, because they're dead. So I can't tell, right? There's no personality, there's no speech, so I can't figure it out due to context. There's only like, it takes a long time for Dresden to kind of like think of memories and then get the context out of that. That just kind of annoyed me a little bit. Other than that, I think that's the only real negative. Everything else about the story just feels rather average. It feels like just a normal wizard story. It's just a wizard story that's kind of like a crime fighter. It's normal stuff. It feels very standard to me, except for the little inklings of just this grander narrative going on. And I'm very excited for that. I feel like that would be enjoyable, but I'm also enjoying the simple pulpiness of Dresden. It's just a lot of fun. It's just a fun story, and it's short too. It's only 300-400 pages, which means I can get through it in just a couple of days, which is just fantastic. There seems to be nothing else special about it, though. Dresden as a character is not fantastic. He's just fun. He's as normal as you can get. He's a fun character and an interesting character. Not too interesting, just interesting. The plot is not crazy. It's not, wow, that's so cool. The world itself, it's a very much like I mentioned before, where there's a lot of seeds planted that are going to expand later on, and that's just going to be magnificent to see, I think, most likely. But right now, with these seeds, it really does make it so that there's not too much going on in the story so far. It's an enjoyable story. It's a simple, pulpy story, and I don't have too much great things to say about it. Because of that, I did rate it a 2 out of 5 stars. I debated going over to 1, and I may have by the time this video airs, but I have no clue, because what the story does is just so normal. It's such a normal story that I really feel like it's a 1 star, because I didn't feel like it's a very great story in any way. But just the fact that I enjoyed it, like I really had fun reading the story, and as soon as I picked up the second book, which I just did immediately, I just felt like I went back home. It's just fun, a good story that I just felt like, hey, another one, great, fun. So just because of that feeling, just because of that light attachment that I have to it that I don't get to every single book, I'm gonna say this is a 2 star, because it did make me feel like this is a fun place to be. This is just fun, and I'm happy with it. And so because of that, that is a 2 star. And a criticism that I don't really want to factor in is the name Stormfront. Really? Really? Stormfront? Like, I see why it's Storm. What's the front part though? Front part, it might just be like surface level, like he's going to the storm, like he's in front of the storm. That's kind of lame, I think. I don't know. That's a dumb title. Anyway, that is my review for Stormfront, or the first Dresden Files. I will be reviewing the new books as soon as they come out. I hope you do watch through the entire series, because I'm not going to make them too long. This is going to be likely the longest video of the entire bunch until the new releases come out. Then they'll be a little bit longer, because they are very, simple books. They're not extremely complicated. Because of that, they're going to be short anyway. So this is probably going to be the longest one, and I definitely am going to shorten up the other ones. I presume maybe 5 minutes, maybe less, maybe more for each of them. I aim for 1 video a week, or hopefully more than 1 video a week, just because there's not enough weeks to like read all of them in one go. But I think I should be able to do it, and if I can, I will get an extra video out whenever I can. I just have so many reviews ready. I've read The Lies of Locke Lamora, I've read Game of Thrones, I've read so many books that I just haven't released yet. I'm so sorry for the people who have been waiting for like certain books because they followed me on Goodreads. By the way, follow me on Goodreads. Go to Goodreads. If you look in the description, I do have a Goodreads link. You'll see all the books I'm reading right now. This is not an accurate measure. I only update my YouTube channel once a week, and I update my Goodreads profile every single day. So you can go there and you can see whatever I'm reading right now. You can give me comments, you can give me advice, anything that you want to do. I'm happy to read it. But please be patient in this time. We're doing some stuff. We're doing the best we can, and we'll see how this goes. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.